Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive with us.
Yeah.
This time we're looking at something, two things actually, that might seem kind of random at first. Designing for folks with dyscalculia and the rise of ChatGPT. But stick with us, because we always love finding those weird connections, and this one might just blow your mind. So our jumping off point for this deep dive is a really cool UX podcast episode. That pointed us to two seriously thought-provoking articles.
Yeah, these articles were great.
First up, we're going to tackle the challenges of dyscalculia, and then we're going to dive headfirst into ChatGPT and see if maybe, just maybe, these two things have more in common than we think.
All right, so let's kick things off by talking about what dyscalculia actually is. A lot of people think it's just about finding math hard. But it's actually much deeper than that. It's a learning difference. That affects how people process numbers. Imagine struggling to visualize quantities, or make sense of how numbers relate to each other, or even just estimating time. That's the reality for people with dyscalculia.
It's crazy to think about, right?
Yeah.
That something so basic to our lives can be such a struggle. And the thing is, it's not even that rare. I was reading that dyscalculia might affect way more people than we realize.
Oh, absolutely. And that's why design is so important here. That first article we mentioned, designing for people with dyscalculia and low numeracy, it really gets into how even small design changes can make a huge difference. For example, instead of just using numbers everywhere, we can try using visual aids, like graphs or timelines, or even just progress bars to show data.
It's funny you should say that, because I was just using this website the other day. It was driving me CRVZ, which is one of those flight booking sites. And they made you scroll through this endless calendar grid to pick your travel dates. I mean, talk about a headache.
I know exactly what you mean, and imagine how much harder that is. For someone with dyscalculia, those calendar widgets where you can just visually pick a date, those are a total game changer. And it's not just calendars either. Things like breaking down complex calculations into smaller steps, offering other ways to input information, like voice commands instead of having to use a number keypad. And even just using clear and concise language, all of that can make a huge difference.
It's like if you can make something easier to understand and easier to use for someone with dyscalculia, you're probably making it better for everyone.
Exactly. That's the whole idea behind inclusive design, recognizing that we all experience the world differently and designing solutions that work for as many people as possible. When you design for accessibility, everyone benefits.
I love that. Okay, so we've been talking about designing for human limitations. But now let's switch gears for a second and talk about a technology that seems to be pushing the boundaries of what humans can do. ChatGPT.
This is where things get really interesting. That second article, How ChatGPT is Blowing Google Out of the Water, a UX Breakdown. It really digs into what makes ChatGPT so revolutionary.
Okay, so picture this. You've got a question, any question at all. And instead of typing it into Google and then having to sift through a million search results, you ask ChatGPT and boom, in seconds, you get a clear, concise answer, almost like you're talking to a really smart friend. Like I've even seen examples where it can write different kinds of creative text formats like poems, code scripts, musical pieces, email letters, and answer your questions in a really helpful way. Even if they're open-ended, challenging, or strange, it can even translate languages on the fly.
It's pretty mind-blowing. What makes ChatGPT so powerful is it can process and generate human-like text in a way that no other AI has been able to do before. It's like having your own personal research assistant, available 24/7.
Okay, but powerful technology almost always comes with downsides, right?
Oh, absolutely. One of the big questions with ChatGPT is transparency. We don't really know how it comes up with its answers. It's kind of a black box, which makes it hard to know how much to trust the information it gives us.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Just because it sounds confident doesn't mean it's right. We still need to be critical thinkers and not just blindly accept everything ChatGPT tells us.
Exactly. And that's why it's so important to have these conversations. We need to understand both the amazing potential and the potential risks of powerful AI tools like ChatGPT.
It feels like we're at a crossroads with AI. And the choices we make now are going to have a huge impact on the future.
Well said. It really makes you wonder.
Ooh, hold that thought. Because we're going to dive even deeper into ChatGPT and explore how it might be connected to something as seemingly unrelated as dyscalculia. You won't want to miss this. So we've got these two seemingly separate things right, designing for accessibility with dyscalculia and this crazy powerful AI ChatGPT. But before we even get into the ethics of it all, I'm just curious, could there be a connection here? Could ChatGPT actually help people with dyscalculia?
It's a fascinating question. It really highlights how all these things are connected. Design, accessibility, AI, we're trying to build a digital world that works for people with all sorts of cognitive abilities.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we've got this AI that's learning to think and problem solve in ways we never even imagined.
Yeah, it's like, humans are adapting tech, and tech is adapting to humans. So how could ChatGPT actually help someone with dyscalculia, like in their everyday life?
Well, think about some of the things that can be tough for someone with dyscalculia. Managing money, keeping track of time, even just following a recipe. Now imagine if you had this AI assistant that could break down complex calculations, give you visual aids, and offer different ways to interact with numbers.
It'd be like a digital tutor that's always there for you, especially for kids who are struggling in school. That could be a game changer.
Exactly. And ChatGPT could even learn your specific learning style and adapt to how you learn best. It could give you personalized feedback, figure out where you need extra help, and even make learning more fun.
Whoa, like a custom-designed learning experience, tailored just for you. That's pretty incredible. But okay, let's play devil's advocate for a second. Are there downsides to this?
Sure, there are always things to consider. One concern is over-reliance. Like, what if people become too dependent on ChatGPT for calculations and problem solving? Could that actually hurt their ability to develop their own numerical skills?
Right, it's all about finding that balance between support and independence. And of course, there's the question of access. Not everyone will have access to this kind of technology, right?
Absolutely. That's a crucial point. We have to make sure that these advancements in AI don't just make existing inequalities worse.
So it sounds like there's huge potential for ChatGPT to help people with dyscalculia, but we need to be thoughtful about how we design it, how we implement it, and make sure it's accessible and beneficial for everyone.
Couldn't agree more. It all comes back to that core principle of inclusive design, thinking about the needs of diverse users from the very beginning.
So speaking of inclusive design, let's bring this back to ChatGPT's impact on the digital world in general. That article we talked about, it mentioned that some people are worried about what this means for traditional search engines, like Google. That's a pretty big deal, right?
It is. Some experts believe that ChatGPT could totally revolutionize the way we search for information. Imagine, instead of a page of website links, you just get instant personalized answers to your questions.
Okay, yeah, from a user perspective, that sounds amazing. But what happens to the websites themselves if people aren't clicking through to websites anymore?
Right. That's a valid concern. And it raises bigger questions about the future of the internet. Like, if AI becomes our main source of information, what happens to all the different voices and perspectives that we have online now?
It's like, are we heading towards this world where we're all getting our information from one single AI? That's kind of a scary thought.
It does raise some red flags.
No.
And it shows how important critical thinking is and media literacy. In the age of AI, we have to be able to evaluate information from lots of sources, understand biases, and come to our own conclusions.
We can't just passively accept whatever the AI tells us.
Exactly.
And here's another thing.
ChatGPT is amazing, but it's still a machine. And like any machine, it's only as good as the data it's trained on.
So what if the data is biased?
That's the thing. If the data reflects existing biases and inequalities, then those biases will show up in the information it provides.
Oh, wow. So it's crucial to have diverse voices involved in developing and training these AI systems.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like we need to teach AI to be inclusive too.
Right.
To be as fair and equitable as we're trying to be ourselves.
It's a big challenge, but I think it's an important one, and it goes beyond AI too. If we can design technology that accommodates different ways of thinking, like we were talking about with dyscalculia, imagine how much more accessible we can make the digital world for everyone.
That's a great point. It's like we're on the verge of this whole new era of design, where tech is truly designed with everyone in mind.
And speaking of which, I wanted to mention those resources again from that UX podcast episode. If you're interested in learning more about accessibility and inclusive design, Derek Featherstone's work is a fantastic place to start.
Oh, yeah, he's amazing. And for anyone who's like totally fascinated by ChatGPT and wants to go deeper, there are tons of articles and discussions online. The UX podcast even linked to some that look at ChatGPT's impact on different industries.
Yeah, it's clear that this technology is going to have a huge impact on all our lives. So it's up to us to stay informed and be part of the conversation.
Couldn't agree more. We can't just sit back and let technology happen to us. We need to be active in shaping the future.
Exactly. Well said. So to everyone listening, as you go about your day, we encourage you to keep these ideas in mind. Pay attention to the design choices you see around you, the good A&D, the bad. Ask questions about the tech you use. And most importantly, never stop learning and exploring.
Because things are changing so fast. The most important skill you can have is the ability to adapt, learn, and grow.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So that wraps up another deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
And remember, the future of tech is in our hands.
Let's make it a good one.